Antiochus I Soter, known as Antiochus the Savior, ruled the Seleucid Empire from 281 BC to his death in 261 BC. His reign was marked by a series of conflicts, alliances, and strategic decisions that shaped the early years of the Seleucid Empire following the death of his father, Seleucus I Nicator. As the last known ruler to claim the ancient Mesopotamian title, King of the Universe, Antiochus inherited a vast, unstable empire, but managed to hold it together through a mixture of diplomacy, military prowess, and cultural patronage. Origins and early life. Antiochus, born around 324 or 323 BCE, was the son of Seleucus I Nicator, one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals, and the founder of the Seleucid Empire, and Apama, a Bactrian princess and daughter of Stratonice, a notable Sogdian noble. His mother's marriage to Seleucus was a strategic alliance orchestrated by Alexander the Great, who, in his vision of merging cultures, encouraged unions between his Greek and Macedonian officers and the elite families of the lands they conquered. Through such marriages, Alexander sought to foster bonds between his army and the Persian and Central Asian nobility, ensuring stability in his rapidly expanding empire. Seleucus and Apama's marriage was one of the rare successful ones, as most of the Macedonians quickly divorced their Persian wives. Antiochus's birth thus symbolized the fusion of Macedonian military strength and Persian aristocratic heritage, a mix that would play a significant role in his later life. To strengthen their legitimacy in the lands they governed, the Seleucids emphasized a mythic connection to the Achaemenid dynasty, the former rulers of Persia. Seleucus I and his successors propagated the idea that Apama was the daughter of Darius III, the last Achaemenid king defeated by Alexander. This claim, though unfounded, was a deliberate attempt to associate the Seleucid family with the ancient royal lineage of Persia, lending them greater authority and acceptance among Persian subjects who still held loyalty to the Achaemenid legacy. By presenting themselves as both successors to Alexander and heirs of Darius, the Seleucids aimed to unify their multi-ethnic empire under a narrative of shared cultural and political inheritance. Antiochus was raised in a world marked by a blend of Greek and Persian influences. From his father, he inherited the Macedonian tradition of military prowess and governance, rooted in the valor and discipline admired by Alexander's soldiers. From his mother's side, he was introduced to Persian customs and administrative methods which had governed a vast empire for centuries. Antiochus's education likely included training in military strategy, governance, and diplomacy, with exposure to both Greek and Persian languages, customs, and philosophies. This upbringing prepared him for the complex political landscape of his father's empire, which extended from Asia Minor to parts of Central Asia, including diverse populations with distinct traditions and loyalties. As crown prince, Antiochus was not only the heir to a vast empire, but also the bearer of a unique legacy. His future was destined to be shaped by the need to maintain and expand his father's territories while navigating the empire's ethnic and cultural divisions. The marriage to Stratonice. In 294 BCE, Antiochus's life took an unexpected and dramatic turn that not only impacted his personal life, but also reshaped alliances within the Seleucid royal family. According to ancient accounts, Antiochus developed an intense, almost debilitating attraction to his stepmother, Stratonice, who was the daughter of Demetrius Poliorcetes, one of the most influential figures of the Hellenistic world. Stratonice had originally married Seleucus, Antiochus's father and the founder of the Seleucid Empire, as part of a political alliance that strengthened Seleucus's position among the Hellenistic rulers. However, Antiochus's growing passion for Stratonice placed both his health and family stability at risk. Antiochus's feelings for Stratonice became so overwhelming that he fell gravely ill. Some ancient sources suggest that his love was so consuming it manifested physically, causing a decline in his health and leading doctors and advisors to fear for his life. The exact details vary, but most versions of the story agree that Antiochus's condition puzzled his physicians until one of them, possibly the famed doctor Erasistratus, diagnosed the true cause. Antiochus's illness stemmed from his unfulfilled and socially forbidden love for his stepmother. Given the ethical complexities and personal risks associated with revealing his feelings, Antiochus had kept his emotions a secret, but his suffering eventually betrayed him. Seleucus, recognizing the gravity of the situation, took a remarkable step to save his son's life. Instead of condemning Antiochus or forcing him to repress his feelings, Seleucus demonstrated a pragmatic approach by relinquishing Stratonice. In a surprising turn of events, he arranged for Stratonice to marry Antiochus, thus ensuring his son's recovery and stabilizing the family dynamic. This decision exemplifies the flexible, often unconventional approaches that Hellenistic rulers sometimes adopted in personal matters, particularly when political alliances or family loyalty were at stake. By allowing Antiochus to marry Stratonice, Seleucus not only saved his son's life, but also strengthened the bond within the ruling family. The marriage between Antiochus and Stratonice resulted in 5 children, securing the continuity of the Seleucid line and further cementing political connections with other Hellenistic rulers. The alliance with Demetrius Poliorcetes through Stratonice brought Seleucus closer to other influential dynasties, which would have been valuable as the Seleucid Empire navigated the complexities of maintaining power across a vast and culturally diverse territory. The union also underscored the importance of marriage as a tool for building loyalty and unity within royal families. Given the turbulent political landscape, such internal loyalty was vital for the Seleucid dynasty, which faced challenges from rival kingdoms as well as from internal factions. This reveals much about the social norms and priorities of Hellenistic royal families, where personal desires were often subordinated to the demands of political strategy. In this case, however, the resolution aligned both personal and political needs, allowing Antiochus's health and well-being to be restored while preserving the family's alliance network. This decision was instrumental in preparing Antiochus for the pressures he would later face as ruler. By nurturing loyalty within the family and maintaining strategic alliances, Seleucus ensured that Antiochus could ascend to the throne with both a strong personal foundation and a stable network of allies. This unique episode thus serves as an example of the flexible, often family-centered strategies used by Hellenistic monarchs. For Antiochus, this marriage provided not only physical and emotional healing, but also a source of strength and legitimacy as he moved forward to assume the responsibilities of the throne. It exemplified the close-knit nature of the Hellenistic dynasties, where political and personal lives were inextricably linked, and family loyalty was a crucial asset in an era of constant rivalry and shifting alliances. The succession and initial challenges. In 281 BCE, the assassination of Seleucus by Ptolemy Carauno thrusted Antiochus into a daunting and complex position as the new ruler of the Seleucid Empire. His father's death was not just a personal loss, but also a significant blow to the stability of an empire already marked by cultural diversity and regional tensions. Seleucus had established an extensive realm stretching from Asia Minor to the borders of India, uniting various territories through a combination of military conquest and strategic alliances. Antiochus now faced the formidable task of maintaining and consolidating this sprawling empire, a responsibility made more challenging by the immediate outbreak of revolts and political instability. One of Antiochus's first challenges arose in Syria, where revolts erupted soon after his father's assassination. The unrest in Syria highlighted the fragility of Seleucid authority in regions far from the empire's central power base. Local leaders and populations were often wary of Seleucid rule, and the sudden loss of Seleucus provided an opportunity for factions to assert their independence. These early revolts required Antiochus to respond swiftly, using both military force and strategic concessions to reassert his authority. This initial struggle in Syria foreshadowed the broader difficulties he would face in trying to unify and stabilize the diverse territories of his empire. Complicating matters further, Antiochus was forced to contend with Ptolemy Caraunos, the assassin of his father. Ptolemy Caraunos, who belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty ruling Egypt, presented a direct threat to Antiochus, both as his father's killer and as a rival for power in the Hellenistic world. Rather than engaging in a prolonged conflict with Karanos, Antiochus opted for a pragmatic approach by negotiating an agreement. This pact required Antiochus to forego any ambitions in Macedonia and Thrace, effectively limiting his influence to territories east of the Aegean. While this concession curtailed the Seleucid Empire's potential expansion into Europe, it allowed Antiochus to focus on consolidating his rule in Asia, without the added risk of a war with Karanos. In addition to challenges in Syria and the negotiations with Ptolemy Karanos, Antiochus encountered significant resistance in Anatolia. This region was a mosaic of independent and semi-independent kingdoms and tribal states, each with its own traditions and loyalties. Among these were Bithynia and several Persian dynasties in Cappadocia, both of which resisted Seleucid authority. Antiochus attempted to assert his control over these areas, yet his campaigns met with limited success. Bithynia, under the leadership of its local rulers, successfully defended its autonomy, and the Persian dynasties in Cappadocia also proved resilient against Seleucid influence. These setbacks illustrated the inherent difficulties of managing distant territories, where local leaders were often deeply entrenched and resistant to foreign control. The early years of Antiochus's reign were thus marked by a struggle to retain control over his father's conquests. Unlike Seleucus, who had founded the empire through successive military victories, Antiochus had inherited a vast but fragmented realm. His task was not one of expansion, but of consolidation, requiring a delicate balance between military action and diplomatic negotiation. Antiochus's experience with Ptolemy Karanos demonstrated his willingness to make concessions when necessary, while his efforts in Anatolia underscored the limitations of military power in regions where local loyalties remained strong. Victory over the Gauls and the title Soter. In 278 BCE, Antiochus faced a serious new threat to the Seleucid Empire, an invasion by Gallic tribes. These Gallic invaders had crossed into Asia Minor, sowing fear and instability across the region. Known for their fierce warrior culture and relentless attacks, the Gauls were a destabilizing force in the already complex political landscape of Asia Minor. Their invasion endangered not only the local populations, but also the stability of Antiochus's rule. Antiochus responded to this threat by rallying his forces and preparing for a decisive confrontation. 3 years later, in 275 BCE, he successfully defeated the Gauls in a battle that would mark a pivotal moment in his reign. One of the critical factors in Antiochus's victory over the Gauls was his innovative use of Indian war elephants. These elephants, introduced to the Seleucid forces through trade and diplomacy with Indian kingdoms, represented a powerful military technology that was both exotic and formidable. Elephants, standing as towering symbols of strength, often intimidated opposing armies unfamiliar with their size and power. Their role in Antiochus's campaign against the Gauls not only demonstrated the Seleucids' access to diverse resources, but also showcased their adaptability in integrating these unique elements into the Hellenistic army. The sight and strength of these elephants in battle had a significant psychological impact, contributing to the Gauls' eventual defeat. Antiochus's tactical acumen in using elephants, alongside his army's discipline, enabled him to break the Gauls' offensive and restore order in Asia Minor. The successful defense of Asia Minor against the Gauls brought tremendous relief to the region's inhabitants and bolstered Antiochus's reputation as a strong and protective ruler. In recognition of this victory, he was given the honorary title Soter, meaning savior. This title reflected the gratitude and respect he earned from the local populations, who saw him as a protector against the violent incursions that threatened their lands. Antiochus's triumph over the Gauls helped consolidate his rule, demonstrating that he was not only a capable successor to Seleucus, but also a leader with the skill and determination to safeguard his empire. The First Syrian War and Coele-Syria. At the end of 275 BCE, Antiochus found himself drawn into a critical conflict with the Ptolemaic kingdom over the contested region of Coele-Syria. This strategically important territory, located between the Seleucid and Ptolemaic empires, had long been a point of contention, its fertile lands and key trade routes adding to its value. The roots of the dispute stretched back to the aftermath of Alexander the Great's empire, which had fractured into several successor states, each ruled by one of his former generals. During this partitioning, Coele-Syria had come under the control of the Ptolemies, although the Seleucids never relinquished their claim. Thus began the First Syrian War, a drawn-out conflict in which neither side achieved a clear victory, but both were determined to assert dominance over the prized region. The First Syrian War involved a series of skirmishes, battles, and shifting alliances as both kingdoms sought to strengthen their position in Coele-Syria. For Antiochus, the war presented a chance to secure a region that would not only add to the Seleucid Empire's wealth, but also strengthen its strategic foothold in the eastern Mediterranean. From a geopolitical perspective, control over Coele-Syria was invaluable. Its location served as a buffer zone between the Seleucid and Ptolemaic territories and provided a direct route to the Levantine coast, a crucial access point to Mediterranean trade. Both empires understood that controlling this area would significantly enhance their influence, both economically and militarily. The war, however, proved to be a stalemate. While both sides committed resources and manpower to the conflict, neither Antiochus nor Ptolemy managed to secure a decisive victory. The battles were marked by fluid allegiances, with local leaders and smaller states often switching sides depending on which power seemed stronger at any given moment. This lack of a definitive outcome demonstrated the resilience of both empires, but also underscored the difficulty of maintaining control over Coele-Syria. In addition, the prolonged nature of the conflict drained resources on both sides, which prevented either kingdom from gaining a substantial advantage. Although the First Syrian War did not dramatically alter the borders between the Seleucid and Ptolemaic realms, it had lasting consequences for both dynasties. The war inaugurated what would become a long-standing and bitter rivalry between the Seleucids and Ptolemies, known as the Syrian Wars, which spanned several generations. Control over Coele-Syria became a recurring theme in this rivalry, with each kingdom viewing the territory as essential not only for its wealth and strategic position, but also as a matter of prestige and legitimacy. For both dynasties, dominance over Coele-Syria was symbolic of their rightful succession to Alexander's legacy, fueling further conflicts and shaping the geopolitics of the eastern Mediterranean for decades to come. Building projects and Mesopotamian influence. Antiochus undertook a series of building projects that underscored his dual role as a Hellenistic ruler and an inheritor of Mesopotamian traditions. Around 268 BCE, he initiated the construction of the Ezida Temple in Borsippa, a sacred site dedicated to the god Nabu, which held significant religious and cultural value for the local population. By committing resources to the temple's restoration, Antiochus honored the long-standing spiritual traditions of the region, reflecting his interest in connecting his rule with the revered legacy of ancient Babylonian kingship. Antiochus's dedication to such projects demonstrated his understanding of the importance of religious legitimacy, particularly in territories with deeply ingrained cultural identities and customs. Antiochus's decision to restore the Ezida Temple was likely influenced by both political and cultural considerations. As a Hellenistic ruler in a region with a millennia-old tradition of kingship, Antiochus recognized that embracing the religious heritage of his Babylonian subjects would help consolidate his authority and reinforce his image as a legitimate king. By associating himself with the legacy of past Mesopotamian rulers, he strengthened his claim to the title King of the Universe, a title held by ancient Babylonian kings that symbolized universal authority and divine favor. This title appealed to his Babylonian subjects, who saw their kings as chosen by the gods to maintain cosmic order, and thus helped to bridge the cultural gap between his Hellenistic Greek heritage and the Mesopotamian traditions that dominated much of his empire. The Cylinder of Antiochus, an inscribed document in traditional Akkadian, reveals Antiochus's intentional alignment with Mesopotamian customs to legitimize his rule. The cylinder inscription follows the stylistic conventions of earlier Babylonian records, with Antiochus portrayed as a restorer of temples and a pious king who respected the Babylonian gods. In the text, he is depicted as someone who honors Marduk and Nabu, two of the principal deities in the Babylonian pantheon. This portrayal connected him to a line of revered rulers who had upheld Babylonian religious traditions for centuries. By using Akkadian, the ancient language of the Babylonians, Antiochus communicated directly to his subjects in a script and language they understood, strengthening his image as a ruler who embraced and respected their heritage. The cylinder of Antiochus and his dedication to the Ezida temple reflected a sophisticated approach to governance that went beyond military control. By supporting local religious practices and restoring sacred sites, Antiochus enhanced his standing among his Babylonian subjects, many of whom may have seen him as a true successor to the kings of Babylon. This approach was essential for maintaining stability in the diverse Seleucid Empire, where a variety of cultures and religions coexisted. Antiochus's efforts to present himself as a culturally inclusive ruler not only bolstered loyalty among Babylonian communities, but also reinforced the legitimacy of his rule across the eastern regions of his empire, where local traditions held significant influence. The tragedy of Seleucus and the conflict with Pergamum Antiochus' reign faced significant internal and external challenges, many of which impacted the stability and future of the Seleucid Empire. Among these, the loss of his eldest son, Seleucus, stands out as a profound personal and political blow. Seleucus, who had been appointed as viceroy of the empire's eastern provinces, was executed around 268/267 BCE on charges of rebellion. This sudden and severe act indicates the extent to which even the Seleucid royal family was vulnerable to internal conflicts and mistrust. The precise motivations and circumstances behind Seleucus's execution remain uncertain, but the incident reveals the potential for discord within the highest ranks of the empire. The loss of Seleucus left Antiochus with his second son, Antiochus II, as his primary heir, reordering the line of succession and raising questions about the stability of the dynasty. Seleucus's execution suggests that the Seleucid Empire was not immune to the factionalism and rivalries that could destabilize Hellenistic monarchies. As viceroy, Seleucus held significant authority in the eastern provinces, where local governors and satraps often enjoyed a degree of autonomy due to the sheer distance from the central administration. Such power could easily fuel ambitions or discontent, particularly if Seleucus felt overshadowed by his father or mistrusted by other members of the royal court. In addition to internal difficulties, Antiochus faced formidable external challenges as he attempted to expand and solidify Seleucid control across the empire's vast territories. Around 262 BCE, Antiochus turned his attention to the western region of Asia Minor, where Pergamum, an increasingly powerful city-state, was beginning to assert its independence. Antiochus saw Pergamum's rise as a potential threat to Seleucid authority in the region, prompting him to launch a campaign aimed at reasserting control. However, his efforts met with resistance, and he suffered a significant defeat near Sardis. This loss was a wake-up call, demonstrating the growing strength and autonomy of local powers within the Seleucid Empire. Pergamum's victory against Antiochus highlighted the difficulty of governing a vast, culturally diverse empire with regions that often pursued their interests independently. The failed campaign against Pergamum was more than just a military setback. It was a symbolic blow to the Seleucid Empire's influence in Asia Minor. It underscored the shifting dynamics within the Hellenistic world, where once dominant empires increasingly faced competition from rising local powers. Founding of Ai-Khanoum. One of Antiochus's most enduring legacies was the establishment of Ai-Khanoum, a Greek city founded around 280 BCE in what is now northern Afghanistan. Situated at the confluence of the Panj and Kalkcha rivers, Ai-Khanoum represented an ambitious attempt to extend Greek culture deep into Central Asia, near the border of the Indian subcontinent. The city's location was strategically chosen. not only as a military and trade hub, but also as a cultural outpost that would introduce and sustain Hellenistic traditions in a region previously shaped by Persian and Indian influences. Ai-Khanoum was constructed to embody the ideals and aesthetics of Greek urban design. Its layout and architecture reflected the classic Greek polis structure, with carefully planned streets, public buildings, and monuments. The city featured temples, theatres, and gymnasiums, along with grand statues and other artistic works that showcase the Hellenistic style. These elements were highly symbolic, as they visually communicated the values and achievements of Greek civilization to local populations. In this way, Ai-Khanoum served as a tangible extension of the Seleucid Empire's cultural and political power, asserting Greek identity in a land far from the traditional Greek heartlands. As a center of learning and intellectual exchange, Ai-Khanoum attracted scholars, philosophers, and artists from across the Hellenistic world. The city's libraries and academic institutions became gathering places for the exchange of ideas and knowledge, reflecting the Seleucid Empire's commitment to fostering a multicultural environment. This intellectual flourishing was a testament to Antiochus's vision of his empire, not merely as a political entity, but as a realm where Greek and Eastern cultures could interact and influence each other. Diplomatic relations with India. Antiochus maintained valuable diplomatic relations with the Maurya Empire of India, particularly with the Mauryan ruler Bindusara, reflecting a strategic partnership rooted in mutual respect and cultural exchange. The Seleucid court's envoy to the Mauryan court, Deimachos of Plataea, acted as a key liaison between the two powerful empires. His presence in Bindusara's court symbolized the Seleucid Empire's intent to foster a stable and cooperative relationship with the Mauryas, one of the most powerful dynasties in South Asia. This diplomatic relationship was beneficial to both sides, as it allowed for the exchange of goods, ideas, and knowledge while preserving peace along their shared borders. An anecdote recorded by Athenaeus sheds light on the nature of this diplomatic exchange. According to the historian, Bindusara once requested that Antiochus send him sweet wine, dried figs, and a sophist, a type of Greek philosopher and teacher. Antiochus reportedly replied that he could send the wine and figs, but not the sophist, as Greek laws prohibited the sale of sophists. This light-hearted response from Antiochus highlights both the curiosity that Greek culture inspired in the Mauryan court and the Seleucid Empire's diplomatic tact. By respectfully declining Bindusara's request for a sophist, Antiochus preserved Greek customs while accommodating Bindusara's interest in Greek goods, balancing cultural pride with a willingness to share aspects of his culture. After a reign that spanned over 3 decades, Antiochus passed away on June 2nd, 261 BCE, at the age of 62 or 63. His death marked the end of a long and eventful rule, one characterized by his relentless efforts to preserve the Seleucid Empire amidst numerous internal and external challenges. Despite facing constant threats from rebellious factions within his vast empire and pressures from neighboring powers, Antiochus managed to secure his position and stabilize the empire through a combination of military victories, strategic marriages, and diplomatic alliances. His leadership ensured that the Seleucid Empire continued to thrive, even as it faced considerable adversity. Antiochus's reign was marked by several significant military successes, including his decisive victory over the Gallic tribes. This victory earned him the title Soter, meaning savior, and helped solidify his reputation as a capable military leader who could protect his empire from external threats. However, his reign was not without its struggles. Antiochus I grappled with revolts within his empire, particularly in Syria and Anatolia, where local powers sought autonomy. Additionally, he faced external threats from rival Hellenistic kingdoms, such as the Ptolemaic Kingdom in Egypt. Despite these pressures, Antiochus successfully navigated these challenges, maintaining the integrity of the Seleucid Empire through a combination of military prowess and diplomatic tact. Strategically, Antiochus recognized the importance of strengthening his rule through marriage alliances. One of the most notable of these was his marriage to his stepmother, Stratonice, which not only ensured his own personal recovery from a serious illness, but also served to solidify political alliances within his family and the broader Seleucid dynasty. These alliances were crucial in maintaining stability within the empire, especially as Antiochus faced potential threats from within his own royal family and other factions. In addition to military and political maneuvering, Antiochus was also deeply involved in promoting cultural initiatives that sought to blend Greek and local traditions. His founding of the Greek city of Ai-Khanoum around 280 BCE in what is now northern Afghanistan is one of his most enduring legacies. Located at the confluence of the Panj and Kokcha rivers, Ai-Khanoum became a symbol of Greek culture on the doorstep of India. The city's Hellenistic architecture, temples, and public buildings served not only as a testament to Greek civilization, but also as a means of extending Seleucid influence into Central Asia. Through Ai-Khanoum, Antiochus promoted Greek ideals, while embracing the region's local customs and traditions, exemplifying the fusion of Eastern and Western cultures that characterized his reign. Antiochus's support for local religious practices further demonstrates his understanding of the diverse cultural elements within his empire. His restoration of Babylonian temples and his support for Mesopotamian religious traditions helped cement his authority in the eastern parts of the empire, where local populations had strong ties to their ancestral traditions. By honoring Babylonian gods and customs, Antiochus connected his reign to the ancient legacy of Mesopotamian kingship, thus strengthening his legitimacy among his subjects. Diplomatically, Antiochus sought to maintain stable relations with neighboring powers. His efforts to forge ties with the Maurya Empire in India, particularly through the ambassadorial exchange with Bindusara, underscored his desire for peaceful coexistence and mutual respect with other great powers of the time. These diplomatic relationships not only helped to protect Seleucid interests, but also allowed for cultural exchanges, furthering the blending of Greek and Eastern traditions. Antiochus's death in 261 BCE left the Seleucid Empire in a relatively stable position, though challenges remained. His successor, Antiochus II, inherited an empire that had been shaped by his father's efforts to bridge cultures, expand Greek influence, and secure alliances. While Antiochus I's reign was marked by struggles, both military and political, his contributions laid the foundation for the Seleucid Empire's enduring influence in the Hellenistic world. His achievements in preserving the empire, promoting cultural fusion, and strengthening diplomatic ties left an indelible mark on the Seleucid dynasty and set the stage for his successors in a rapidly changing geopolitical landscape. In summary, Antiochus's reign stands as a testament to his ability to navigate the complexities of ruling a vast and diverse empire. Through his military successes, diplomatic acumen, and cultural initiatives, he helped stabilize the Seleucid Empire and fostered a blend of Greek and Eastern cultural elements that would continue to influence the region long after his death.